Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So we are now 1 week into the World Cup 2018 tournament, and I think it's time we look back at the last 7 days and specifically what's been going on with regards to Liverpool's international players in Russia. Now, the obvious place to start is with Mohamed Salah, who had his heart broken into tiny, shattered little pieces last night when his Egyptian side was beaten by a suspiciously good Russian team. But I'm not going to get into that. There's a whole conversation to be had about how good Russia are at this tournament and whether there's foul play involved, but we'll leave that for now. Mo Salah did get beaten last night despite having a penalty scored. Nice to see that he's got a good penalty in him because Liverpool are on the lookout for a penalty taker at the moment. But yeah, Egypt were beaten. It was clear that Mo Salah was never going to be at 100%. You know, I understand why he was left out of the game against Uruguay, because you saw how physical that game was, how difficult it looked like it was going to be for Mo Salah to come into with his dislocated shoulder, and the fact that if Uruguay want to stop him and they know that his shoulder's a little bit wobbly, and the physical way in which they defended and in which they battled in that game, they were always going to look to leave one on him within the first 30 seconds or something like that. So I can absolutely see why Salah was left out of that game, but it did give Egypt a huge mountain to climb with that heartbreaking goal against Uruguay, and they just couldn't deal with it against Russia, to be honest. I mean, they're not the most amazing side in the world, and I think they certainly struggled to get the best out of Mo Salah. I think it's clear that he needs those players in and around him at Liverpool. He needs a centre forward like Roberto Firmino. He needs a right back like Trent Alexander-Arnold. He needs service from our midfielders. He needs Mane on the other side to help him out with counter-attacks, and he just wasn't getting any of that kind of style of football from Egypt. You know, they play a very different style, something completely different to the system that Liverpool employ, especially in terms of the way they attack. They're a much more defensive side. They don't really have that much about them going forward. And also, he clearly just wasn't 100%, which is understandable because he had just been thrown in. He obviously wasn't going to be match fit, but Egypt just had to throw him in because that was the nature of the situation they were in. But at the end of the day, it works out quite well for Liverpool. You know, we get Mo Salah back sooner, and as has been pointed out, it's highly possible that both Mane, Senegal, who I'll come on to later, and Firmino, Brazil, who I'll also come on to later, could go far in this tournament. I think quarterfinals at least is probably the kind of stages that those two teams will be expecting to get to. So we need at least one of our front three back, because if they all go far in the tournament, it's unlikely we're going to be able to start all of them and for them to be at 100% when the Premier League season kicks off. So at least with Salah coming back now, we don't have to worry as much about Mane and Firmino and where they go in the tournament, because we can basically rely on the fact that we'll have at least one of our star-studded front three fit and firing for that first game of the season. So yeah, absolutely gutted for Mo Salah. It is a shame for the lad, but at the end of the day, it does work out better for Liverpool. And if he wants to release his frustration on the defences of loads of other Premier League sides next season, then by all means, go for it, Mo. We will all be absolutely chuffed with that. So next up, you've got the England contingent. And this has been a pretty hot source of debate since the game. You know, the Manchester Evening News has waded in with a very interesting, very ill-informed, very salty article, I think it's fair to say, about Jordan Henderson's performance for England. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. A lot of Liverpool fans seem to think he was fantastic, and crucially, most of the professionally paid pundits thought he was brilliant as well. Unfortunately, a few weirdos with Pogba Twitter accounts and some journalists for the Manchester Evening News thought that Henderson was terrible and doesn't belong in the England side, and Martin Keown as well, but I mean, I don't really care for his opinion either. But yeah, it was a weird one, really. I thought Henderson was absolutely fantastic. Not amazing by all accounts, certainly not perfect. You know, none of those England players really put in a perfect performance, but the way that he brought his other teammates into play, he was spraying the ball around, he set up some fantastic attacks as well. There's one, I think it's a dinked ball in for Jesse Lingard or something like that, that basically bypasses the entire Tunisian defence with one little chipped pass, which is incredibly impressive. And I think he absolutely justified why he needs to be in the squad. I think in the bigger games, certainly against Belgium, he needs another midfield partner who's going to be a little bit more defensive with him. I don't really think Dyer's the right player for that, because I think Dyer's too defensive. Really, he needs someone like a Milner or an Emre Can next to him who's still going to get forward, still going to help out. Henderson will still be the most deep line midfielder, but someone who can still put in a little bit of a shift and help him out when there's numbers needed in the defensive side of things. But unfortunately, he's not ever going to get that with Ali and Lingard and Sterling, those kind of players. So it remains to be seen whether Henderson will be able to perform in the big games with the players around him. I think England do have a problem with, they have certainly a shortage of personnel in that area of the pitch, in that box-to-box role. But I thought Henderson was very impressive, justified his selection, and I think England should certainly persist with him in that role because he is incredibly vital for them. It was a little bit unfortunate that we didn't see Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I didn't see anything from Kieran Trippier that suggested he was better than Trent Alexander-Arnold. So hopefully at some point in this performance we see like a half-hour cameo or something like that from Trent, because I think if he gets the chance to show what he can do, then he'll absolutely be able to force his way into that England side. And I think with the pressure that comes from World Cup games, if there's one thing we've seen from Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's that when the pressure is on, when he really needs to perform, that's when he's at his absolute best for Liverpool, and surely he'd be the same for England as well. I think if we have some really difficult ties in the knockouts, then I can't see any reason why we wouldn't play Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I think he would be absolutely amazing in those games. But yeah, that's the English contingent. Will be interesting to see how they get on. Elsewhere, you got Sadio Mane, whose Senegal side have got things off to a reasonably good start. I mean, to be honest, I've never really rated Poland. A lot of people talk about how they've got Lewandowski, who's, you know, a fantastic player, and if you want one-star player, that's the position you want him in. You want them to be your goal scorer. But they've always flattered to deceive. You know, they've always underperformed at the major tournaments and stuff like that. And I wasn't, to be honest, too surprised when Senegal beat them. I was a little bit surprised with the way Senegal beat them, because Sadio Mane, at the end of the day, wasn't actually that instrumental. Obviously, he was dropping a little bit more deep, which is certainly, for Liverpool fans, very interesting when we think about what role Mane might have to play in the side going into next season, especially if we buy another attacking talent for the front three. But yeah, he dropped a little bit deep. I think he didn't seem like he was quite on his top level. But if anything, that should be a promising thing for Senegal, because if they're winning games now, when Sadio Mane's at about an average level, once he starts firing and once he starts really putting in the kind of performances that we know Sadio Mane is capable of, the kind that he's shown for Liverpool, especially over the last few months of the season, then Senegal could really, really go far in this tournament, and they could quite likely get England in the round of 16 as well. So I think that will be a very exciting time. But yeah, Senegal very good. Like I said, I'm expecting him to go far in the tournament, and I'm just hoping that Sadio Mane just is able to bring his performances up a little bit more. I think there's a little bit of something about the players that he has around him. I think, like Mo Salah, they aren't quite the same as the players he has around him at Liverpool. So there's a little bit of an adjustment period to go through there. But I think if he can get used to playing with them a little bit more, if he can link up with them a little bit more, certainly in that number 10 role, he could do a lot of damage. So yeah, Sadio Mane doing nicely for Senegal. Nice to see him smile as well. Nice to see him doing a little bit of a dance with his teammates. So that's all going absolutely fantastically. Elsewhere, you got Roberto Firmino for Brazil. Now this is a weird one, because Firmino was actually fantastic for Brazil for about the 10 minutes that he was actually allowed on the pitch. They were doing awfully against Switzerland. They had absolutely nothing in their locker going forward. Gabriel Jesus was stinking out the gaff for Brazil. He was having no shots. His passing was awful. No assists, no goals or chances created or anything like that. He was basically useless. And if anything, he was detrimental to the players around him. Everyone was saying, or at least all Liverpool fans were saying, get Firmino on because he'll get the best out of the players around him. He'll get the best out of Coutinho. Certainly get the best out of Neymar, who's a bit like Salah in that he plays on the wing, but he needs that centre forward who's going to drop back and create the space for him and also play the ball through him, be a bit more creative and stuff like that. Firmino is that kind of player. He perfectly fits the squad that Brazil have, but they're still sticking with Gabriel Jesus. And I think the most surprising thing is that they're going to carry on with Gabriel Jesus as well. The manager has said that he will be starting him next game, which, to be honest, is baffling, because Firmino's so good for them. He did so much in that 10 minutes. He looked like he was actually going to get a goal. I reckon if he'd been on for another 20 minutes or something like that, he absolutely would have got a goal for Brazil. So a bit disappointing there. But again, at least it means that he'll hopefully come back a little bit fresher for the next season and the pre-season training and stuff like that. But yeah, Firmino, disappointing to not see him play, but hopefully we'll see a little bit more from him as the tournament goes on. Hopefully he can do a Trent and kind of play himself into the side, as we're hoping Trent Alexander-Arnold will do. Dejan Lovren's Croatia kick off tonight. I think they've actually already kicked off, about 2 minutes ago. So by the time this video goes out, he might have scored a hat-trick or something like that, maybe. I don't know. I reckon he'll have a good game against Argentina. It'll certainly be interesting to see how he fares up against some of the world's best attackers. But yeah, he did play against Nigeria. To be honest, there wasn't much to ask from him. You know, Nigeria were pretty bad. had. I think it's fair to say they offered absolutely nothing going forward, but what they did offer, Dejan Lovren dealt with very well. His usual aggressive style of defending, you know, getting up, contesting aerial duels, heading the ball away. He was the imperious centre-back that we've all loved to see at Liverpool over the last few months, certainly since Virgil van Dijk arrived. So promising signs there. Hoping that Croatia go far in the tournament because, you know, they're a bit exciting. They haven't really sort of done too well recently, and it would be nice to see a new team lift the World Cup. I think I'm getting a little bit bored of seeing the regulars like Germany and Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay and all those teams who've lifted it before. I'd quite like to see a Croatia get in there. But yeah, Dejan Lovren doing quite nicely for Croatia. Remains to be seen whether he'll do well tonight as well. Elsewhere, I think you've got Grujic and you've got Simon Mignolet, neither of whom have played. Don't think they've got a huge amount chance of playing. I mean, Belgium have got Thibaut Courtois in goal, who, unless he gets injured, is pretty much nailed on as a starter. Serbia have also got a very good midfield. You know, they've got players like Milinkovic-Savic and Matic, which does make it very difficult for Grujic to break through, but we might see some cameos here and there for him. In terms of the transfer targets that Liverpool have got, the players that we might be signing later on, Nabil Fekir so far has done not very much at all for France. I think it's fair to say he's made a couple of sub appearances. France in general have been very, very poor so far this tournament. They've just not really clicked. They haven't looked like a team. They've looked like a bundle of individuals who show a lot of potential and are very good. We know that from their club careers, but just don't gel together as a team at the moment, which is disappointing, because I think when you look at the talent on paper, they could be an amazing team to watch if they really get working together. But yeah, Nabil Fekir not really done anything so far. Hopefully, to be honest, I'm kind of hoping that France go out soon, because there's been a lot of talk about Fekir. Obviously, all this stuff said about his agent, saying that the deal's not dead, there's still something going on, nothing went wrong with the medical. Remains to be seen whether he's talking the truth there or whether he's just talking up his client to make sure that if he does get any other suitors this summer, they're not put off by all the medical issues or anything like that. We'll find out soon. That's kind of why I'm hoping France go out soon, because the sooner Fekir comes back home, the sooner Liverpool can try and wrap this deal up and stuff like that. Elsewhere, you got Alisson for Brazil, who was all right. I mean, he only really had one big shot to deal with. That was the Switzerland header that went in, so not great there. Shaqiri played for Switzerland. I mean, he wasn't their star player by any means. I think they certainly put in a very good team performance, but when you look at the raw quality of the players that Switzerland have, you'd kind of hope that a player like Shaqiri would stand out if Liverpool were looking for him. He didn't really stand out, but then again, like I said, that could be down to a fantastic team performance from Switzerland. So yeah, I think that's everyone covered. I'll just check my phone to make sure I haven't missed anyone out yet. Firmino, Mane, Lovren, Grujic and Mignolet, Fekir, all that lot. Yeah, so that's basically all the players that Liverpool are interested in. I mean, the problem is now at the World Cup, there is basically no transfer news. You might have spotted by the fact that I haven't really put any videos out on the channel over the past week or so, because any news is very, very fleeting or very kind of, it's just a rumour, people saying they might be interested in this player. They've scouted him, you know, there's stuff about like background checks with Nick Pope, and there's stuff about Strakosha, I think the Lazio keeper, but none of it feels like serious news. None of it feels like serious links. And I think the fact of the matter is, it just feels like Liverpool are going to do things behind closed doors this summer. So it's very difficult to know what's going on until things really progress. Like the Fekir deal, we only really got proper details about that when it got right to the latter stages of it, and it was basically done and dusted. Obviously, we all know what happened there, but that's kind of when we start to get news about Liverpool's transfer targets. So yeah, not much news at the moment, but if there is anything big, I didn't really do a video on the Fekir agent talk because I thought I'll probably just slip it into this one. But if there is any big news, then I will, of course, let you guys know. I'll do another of these World Cup updates probably next week, by which stage the group campaign is going to be pretty much done. So it'll be interesting to know which of Liverpool's players are going to potentially go the distance in the tournament and which ones are coming back for an early holiday and will hopefully be on that plane for the US pre-season tour. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few weeks as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter for all the latest updates on all things Liverpool. And I'll see you soon for either some transfer news or another World Cup update. Bye for now.